Remember when you couldn't order a ride at the press of a button? Or get online without hearing this? Or get Domino's delivered to over 150,000 unexpected outdoor locations? Wait, what? Introducing Domino's Hotspots. You can finally get pizza delivered right to the beach, the quad, or the dog park. Not at home? Not a problem. Find a Domino's hotspot near you and get 2 medium 2-topping pizzas delivered for $5.99 each. 2-item minimum. Handmade pan pizzas will be extra. Ask for this limited time offer. Prices, participation, delivery area, and charges may vary. Restrictions apply. Visit Domino's.com for details on Domino's hotspots.
Yeah, buddy. Good morning. Welcome into another edition of Golic and Wingo on ESPN Radio and ESPN2 for the first 2 hours of the program, henceforth, now, and forever. Glad you are with us on a Football Friday. Mike Golic Jr., Trey Wingo here. Fellas, we made it. We made it through another week.
Another week into week 2.
Yeah.
The NFL starts last night. Whole lot going on, though. I mean, the baseball races are getting good coming down to the end. We got a big fight coming up this weekend as well. So while football is certainly the main course there's certainly a whole lot of things going around it. No doubt about that.
Yeah, you can drink in the vapors of that sound, but we do have some good sides in this weekend. It's been a solid week of that overall, and we get to hopefully at some point today get to my favorite headline that came out of last night. We spent a lot of time on it first and last. I trust we'll do the right thing here.
That's
as well.
Tease, Junior. You're good at your job. One. Well done. And we'll get to all of that. Plus, I am here for as much trash talk between Jalen Ramsey and the Patriots as you want to give me. I want all of it. I'm going to swim in all of it.
I do as well, but I just get a little tired of some of the lines that you hear. But it's fine. But I'm the toughest guy on the planet. I'm so tough. I'm not afraid of anybody. Blah 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 blah. blah.
It's good
stuff.
My God. And we got
that's
all of that.
That's spoken like me and you that are really not good at trash talk.
It's exactly right. That's exactly right.
We're in for all of that, but we have to get an update on the most important story.
Yes, we do.
If you were with us yesterday, we had Rebecca Lobo on the plane, and she blew our mind. She just drops this little nugget that the plane she was flying on out of Dulles was trying a new boarding procedure.
New boarding, yes.
Which was window people go in first, followed by people that's sitting, in the middle. And then the aisle people, and we needed an update, and she said, it's hard to tell because the plane wasn't full. And the flight attendant wasn't aware that they were doing a new procedure.
Rebecca said, how do you like the new boarding procedure, to which the flight attendant said, there's a new boarding procedure?
But we have a witness. We have an eyewitness to this mind-blowing event. Our researcher, Riley, is back with us after doing some yeoman's work on the WNBA Finals. Riley, you were through the new process, the boarding procedure. We need to know, was it revolutionary?
I got to seat 26A, window seat, in record time.
Oh, so you were a window person.
Before we took off.
You were a window person.
I am.
So you were one of the first ones on.
I was.
So one of the things Rebecca said was it was not a full flight. So does that make it tougher to judge because it wasn't a full flight?
Yeah, I think she has a point. There was luckily no one in the middle seat next to me, so I got to stretch the legs a little bit.
Another win for you.
Nice. Blessings.
So that was the best. Was that the best boarding you've ever been a part of?
By far.
So you would do it again?
Yes.
Do you sign up for this boarding procedure going forward? If they said every day we're going to do it, you're on board.
The boarding procedure.
She's on board with the boarding.
This on-air Yelp review brought to you by.
Yeah.
Look, this is important stuff.
I still think back to front.
Yeah, well, that was Mythbusters said that was actually the slowest.
I know, and I just disagree.
I think I choose the version where I just have a carry-on and don't need the overhead space and can waltz in at my leisure.
True.
Although the holy grail is right there, is walking into a situation where you don't have a seat made. That is the ultimate look what God did moment where you can stare next to you in the infinite space that's been provided by the good Lord.
Yeah, that is good stuff. That's stretching out right there. Yeah. Did you have an overhead bag?
I did not. I checked a bag.
Oh, okay. So that really, because no matter what process it is, that is always going to be, that's always going to be the weight there.
Yeah, the overhead bag is Satan.
That's it.
Not today, Satan. Not today.
So.
All right. So that's the most important information we can give you today.
That's exactly right. Well,
everybody flies.
Mike and I are both flying today. We're going to see if the airlines we're on. I don't even know if we're on the same airlines or not. We'll see if they change boarding procedures or not. We'll see how it goes.
I need you to stay after the show for about 20 minutes and do some stuff.
Yeah, you go ahead and enjoy that by yourself because I won't be here.
All right. Let's start with what's trending, and what's trending is we're shaping up to have a really good battle for that final NL wildcard spot potentially. Manny Machado did this kind of thing last night.
3-2. Machado with a fly ball to center field. Bader going back, way back at the wall, and it's gone. A home run for Manny Machado. Wow, what a night. A single, a double, a sac fly, and a home run. And the Dodgers lead it now 9-4.
That the dulcet tones of one Charlie Steiner on AM 570 LA Sports as Machado homered and drove in 3 to back Clayton Kershaw, and the Dodgers beat the Cardinals 9-7 in the opener, guys, of a 4-game series between these two playoff contenders, which is going to go a long way to not only maybe deciding the NL West, but that final wild card spot as well.
Yeah, you're talking after they're done playing these last 3 games, it will be about, 10, 12 more games that they'll have to decide this. So, right now, that's a battle for the spot. The Diamondbacks, you want to put them into that conversation if you want, but it's really the Cardinals and the Dodgers right now. And the beauty is we always look toward the end of the season if you get those matchups of the two teams trying to decide. As I said, you have a couple of handfuls of game after this series is over, but it's nice to see where it ends up after these next few games.
And this becomes, I think, interesting as we look at this, certainly for the Dodgers from a national perspective. I saw on ESPN.com, they did the other day, the best and worst potential World Series matchups that we have out there. And as you can imagine, the Dodgers factor pretty prominently into a few of those, being one of the bigger markets and one of the bigger brand names. But for them, you went and swung big bringing Manny Machado over there. He's going to be a free agent. I see what you did there.
Swung big. I like it.
Yeah, a lot of
Junior,
puns.
You're cooking today.
Yeah, so you get that, and you wonder after the season what that holds if their move doesn't pay off. They don't get that playoff run out of a guy that's not guaranteed to be back with them.
And still they have a shot at the division as well. We keep talking a game away for the second spot with the Cardinals, but they're game and a half out of the Colorado Rockies, who lead that division. And I hope in none of those scenarios where they were talking about worst World Series, my Cleveland Indians were mentioned.
Oh, they were in every one.
They better have been mentioned in the best World Series.
They were in every one.
No comment.
All right.
Moving on. By the way, sometimes you don't want to move on because the Cardinals were 22-6 in August. They're 5-7 in September. Can we go back in time?
Well, I think we found out we can't.
They could.
Yes.
Because they would really, the Cardinals would really like to go back in time and just, can we live in August? And the answer, sadly, is no. Well, this is a tough one. Mets captain David Wright's going to return for the team's final homestand, making what will probably be his last appearance as a big leaguer. The Mets said they plan to activate Wright when they return to Citi Field on September 25th against Atlanta. Wright is scheduled to start at third base on the second to last day of the season against Miami.
This is one of those where you sit there and you look at the deal that was signed, in 2013, I think 8 years for $138 million. And you sit, and Mike, I heard you talking about it this morning. Yeah. When you talk about deals that don't work, and you really, I agreed with you. You can't factor injury into that. If you make a deal and the guy just plays horribly, you can say, man, we screwed that one up. But if a guy's got all these injuries that you just and didn't have him going into it.
Yes, I would say
if
that's
you were a damaged
difference.
product and then signed to that deal, you could be looked at, a little, wait a minute. But he wasn't. He got all those injuries. The last game he played was, May of 2016.
Right, crazy.
Neck, back, shoulder injuries. If he said basically the doctor told him none of it's really going to get any better. So 13 years in a big league uniform for the Mets, 7 All-Stars, and still has money owed. He got $20 million this year. He's got another $27 million over the next 2 years. But a
He's
guy,
no Bobby Bonilla, baby.
How about it? A guy everybody kind of rallied around and liked as the captain of that team. He felt like he was a good leader, but just very difficult when you're only out on the field, maybe a third of the time of your contract.
Yeah, and we talk about all the time what a lonely feeling that is throughout all that, because players feel the burden of that. Like the one thing we've talked about this week with Aaron Rodgers wanting to be on the field is he's even said that's what you're paid to do, is be out there. And Aaron Rodgers, the owner of a bright, shiny new contract. David Wright on the other side of that got that contract, and I'm sure it's been difficult to say, well, as someone who, as he talked about, bleeds these colors for so long, wants to be out there knowing full well, all right, this is what an organization that's invested in me, I want to be able to give back and can't.
Well, listen, Aaron's contract is the shiniest of all contracts. But to that point, you're right. Listen to David Wright. He hasn't played since 2016. He got really emotional talking about this.
To my teammates, coaches, and staff, it's truly been an honor of a lifetime to take the field with you and serve as your captain. Some of my closest friendships have formed in that clubhouse, and we'll certainly, be friends for life.
That's the good stuff again, man. That's the good stuff right there.
You sit there but you think about it. He signs that deal in 2013. The big deal, played 112 games that year, 134 games in 2014. just 38 in 2015 and just 37 in 2016. So, I mean, you had to be just like, wow, this big deal, and then injury cuts him down. Such a likable guy as well. It's a shame it ends this way, but like I said, it either ends for a professional athlete by nobody wanting you anymore, or you're too beat up, as in this case, too many injuries to go on.
Yeah, and we wish David all the best. We look forward to seeing him one last time at Citi Field and that final homestand, as they said, against Atlanta. Meanwhile, the rematch we've been waiting for is finally happening this weekend. Triple G and Canelo Alvarez will meet Saturday in a rematch for the WBA and WBC World Middleweight titles. Again, they had that controversial draw in 2017. Then there was this the steroid suspension, so all kinds of stuff. Really, we're all in this for a couple of reasons. One, to see if someone will actually win, and two, just to see Stephen A. Smith and Teddy Atlas foam at the mouth against each other.
Well, remember, this was off the heels of the Mayweather and McGregor kind of spectacle. I wouldn't even call that a fight. It was more of a spectacle.
That was all about the press
conferences. That was an entertainment spectacle is what that was, and everybody was juiced up for an actual fight. With Canelo and Triple G, and then you got that draw, so you obviously knew another one was coming. And then, as you mentioned, the suspension. I was looking at a lot of the experts. We'll have Teddy Atlas in a little bit later, and it seemed to me a few more were going for Triple G. You look at Alvarez, the kind of the technician, the counterpuncher, but Triple G, all the thought process, and I'm really interested to hear from Teddy if he continuously tries to go to that body, that he'll eventually wear out Alvarez and win this fight. So we'll see. I mean, I'm all in. I'm definitely all in on this to see a good boxing match. I love the show of Mayweather and I can't believe it. Twice. McGregor. Yeah. Thank you very much. I loved that show.
Conor McGregor.
I know. Thank you.
Mayweather.
Yeah. I loved that show, but I'm looking forward to this boxing match.
Yeah, I think just the substance that you got, because it's like, too, we can talk about forgetting Mayweather and McGregor. Mayweather in any fight, who has been the defining boxer of a generation because of his defensive prowess, which never really made, even when we had Mayweather and Pacquiao, the fight that was years after it should have happened, but one that people still look forward to because of the names involved, didn't produce a style that really excited everyone. These guys put on an exciting brand of boxing. It's an energy, so much so that when I got the draw, I didn't really care because I had gotten out of that fight what I wanted, which is being entertained by the process. And so we have that to look forward to again on Saturday night in a way that I think is unique in that sport right now, which is kind of seeing more exciting matches pop up, but this has been front and center.
This one will cost you $84 though.
Yeah, you chipping in 84 for this one?
Chipping in with you guys? Listen. You guys got this one, all right? I'll be over. I'll bring a couple of snacks. You guys can foot the bill.
Yeah, we'll go 42-42. What do you think? Yeah. We'll split it right down.
That's about right.
Yeah, that makes all the sense in the world.
42-42-0. Right on.
42-42 snacks.
Yes, exactly.
And we'll finish up what's trending with start week 2 of the NFL season. And ladies and gentlemen, are the Cincinnati Bengals for real? Listen. It was quite the aerial show, especially in the first half, as Andy Dalton was throwing touchdown passes to everybody.
Dalton back to throw again, looking right. Now throws over the middle, caught at the 10-yard line. Boyd breaks through a tackle and takes it into the end zone. Andy Dalton's 4th touchdown pass of the first half, and the Bengals have restored a 3-touchdown lead.
Listen, we don't have many parameters on this show. We don't have many foundations that we build on, but we build on this one. We are all for local radio.
Oh, yeah.
Play-by-play and then color homer guy. And nobody does that better than Dave Latham.
He's unreal.
Been there forever. ESPN 1530 in Cincinnati. Yeah! Get in there. Go!
You just did it, though. And for those who are watching on ESPN2, you saw it. You can physically hear the fist pump.
Oh, absolutely.
You don't need to see what he was putting on there to know that there was just wild fist pumpery going on.
What a show that Cincinnati is putting on. You know, we both picked them yesterday.
We did.
In this one, and they just have more firepower on offense. In this one, you know, A.J. Green gets 3 touchdowns by 13-minute mark of the second quarter.
Right.
He's got his 3rd touchdown, 4 touchdown passes for Dalton in the first half. But what's interesting is we keep trying to figure out that identity. Then with 1:22 left in the half, the next 5 possessions for the Bengals were punts.
Yeah.
All punts. So it's like, you know, what is this team? Will that hurt them? Now we're thinking about them in that context of, will this hurt them against the better team? So where are we putting this team? A team that got rid of some age, brought in some youth, and they're certainly getting some production. Jesse Bates, a rookie, gets his first interception. Sam Hubbard, a rookie D-end out of Ohio State, gets his first sack.
Playing for Michael Johnson, who got hurt.
Joe Mixon is a young player. Obviously, Billy Price at center, who ended up getting hurt, though, and leaving this game. Didn't come back in this game. Mixon got hurt and did come back. So you like the youth, but they're getting a lot of success with this use. Andy Dalton, 6 touchdowns, 1 interception only this year. We know they have the firepower on this team, and can they do it consistently?
Well, we talked too in the last few days a lot about coordinators in the NFL, and Bill Lazor was a guy that came over midway through last year, and you heard
the offensive coordinator for Cincinnati.
The offensive coordinator for the Bengals came over midway through last year. They talked about it on the broadcast last night. Didn't have the time and the ability in the middle of a season to implement a lot of the language of his offense, a lot of the specifics. And so now you've got a full offseason to lay the groundwork for that through OTAs, through minicamp, through training camp of the offense that he truly wants to run. And you saw that on display last night. It's a lot like some of the other modern NFL offenses that we're seeing, some spread elements, some run pass option elements that have trickled up from college football. And it's all given them the ability to go out and score 3 times, 4 times in the first half, in the first 15 minutes of gameplay.
Yeah, the amazing thing was, I think that was the first time in Adriel Jeremiah, full name credit, by the way, when you get 3 touchdown passes in a 3 touchdown catches in a game. I think that was the first time in his career that he'd had 2 touchdown catches in the first quarter. He has 3 in the first half, and let's just say after the game on SportsCenter, the Red Rifle, the Ginger Giant, Andy Dalton was all happy and all he could say about Adriel Jeremiah Green.
Yeah, you just want to stay hot at that point. Keep giving him opportunities. AJ's so good, and the way that he's making plays, making guys miss after the catch, and so anytime you get a chance to get him the ball, we try to do that, and I feel like AJ's the best receiver in the league.
He may not be the best receiver in the league, but obviously Andy Dalton has a lot of confidence in Adriel Jeremiah. And Confidence Theme brought to you by National Mortgage Lender Quicken Loans. Apply simply, understand fully, mortgage confidently. And that is something interesting because I think for a while we saw Julio Jones, AJ Green, Antonio Brown, all sort of there, right?
Right.
And then last year AJ took a little step back, and I think he sort of was left out of that discussion again.
Yeah, he was.
I think he's trying to say, guys, I'm still in that discussion.
Look at me. I'm in the team picture of best receivers. At this point, I don't think many people are going to argue with the fact of that happening.
Had the Andy Dalton PR team out there last night. He did the hit after the game, and he said he thinks AJ Green is the best receiver in the NFL. That's how you
literally just played that sound.
Okay, good. Sorry, I was having an argument. There's a conversation.
Those sounds are still echoing somewhere in here.
This is what happens.
If you want to go down the road of repeating.
Listen, but this is what happens is you get the show within the show where all of a sudden I find out Dan Stanzik, our producer, has never had a Nerds rope before, and I'm aghast. So how am I?
This is the conversation you guys are having. Stanzik, way to produce. Nice.
Listen, that's why I had to make sure everyone knew it was his fault.
That's much more interesting.
Let me just say,
the pettiest show in America.
We own it. We own it. So again, to whatever point you were making, Junior, continue.
Sorry, listen, but a Nerds rope, it is one of the greater candies out there. And for the fact that Dan Stanzik, an avid moviegoer, has never had a Nerds rope in his life, is shocking.
In fairness, it all started with Fun Dip or Pixie sticks.
So for a producer whose
Can we
job,
go back to football?
Here's the thing.
Is that possible?
For a producer,
can we get back to the football?
For a producer whose job it is to keep everybody on the straight and path of what we're talking about, you're having the side conversation with Mike as we're talking about football, about a nerd rope.
I did have Trey do that Confidence Theme read, though.
He did. Well, listen, we're trying to get on the straight and narrow, and Stanzik is putting us on the winding and wide.
It's still the summer book, right?
Yeah, we're through the summer book, all right? Guys, straighten up.
Nerd rope discussion for the summer book. Football discussion for the fall book. And if you are a Bengals fan, ladies and gentlemen, I have good news for you. The Bengals have scored at least 34 points, or I think 34 exactly, in their first 2 games. Over the last 10 seasons, 4 teams have scored at least 34 points in their first 2 games, and 3 of those 4 went on to the Super Bowl.
75% chance.
75% chance that the Bengals will be dancing in Atlanta in Super Bowl 53.
In all seriousness? In this version of the AFC North, where we just saw the Steelers and the Browns tie in week 1?
We don't know what the Steelers are, do we?
No, we don't. We have no idea.
Well, and in this AFC that we talked about, much weaker looking conference on paper than its NFC counterpart coming into the season, there's at least room for someone to step forward and sort of grab the reins. And week 1, Texans didn't look all that great for how much we had hyped them up in the offseason. Andrew Luck, and really the AFC South is still kind of coming into the form. I'm willing to give the Titans some time because playing in the longest game in NFL history against the Dolphins, not exactly the purest litmus test. I don't know. There's crazier thoughts than the Bengals, who look pretty balanced. That's a Geno Atkins, Carlos Dunlap on that defense. They're going to get Vontaze Burfict back from suspension at some point.
You know who everybody...
But they're going to suspend it again. I mean, that's
you know, after week one, everybody's saying a crazier thought. Everybody's saying the Jets, Jets.
Yeah. Well, they play in that division with that other team.
Trey, by the way, very interested to see. I just want to point this out because the Bengals playing on Thursday night, so they could be forgotten in the wash.
No.
Keep them in mind for next week's top five, brother man.
Listen, again, when we get to next week's top five, we have more than one game to maneuver with, so it'll be a larger sample. Other things will come into play.
They beat your third-ranked team in this week's top five.
Handily, by the way.
Yes.
I mean, that was one of those games where it was closer
Later,
later.
it wasn't close to score.
This was they announced their presence with authority.
They did.
Just keeping them in mind.
We'll
That's
see
all I
what
want
happened
to do.
Going forward. Golic and Wingo, presented by Progressive Insurance and petty people everywhere. With more than 30 unique coverage options available, Progressive knows small business. Learn more at progressivecommercial.com. All right, as we said, we have a double dose of trash talk for our matchup in the AFC this week, and we are here for that. We are here to swim in those waters as much as we possibly can.
Remember when you couldn't order a ride at the press of a button? Or get online without hearing this? Or get Domino's delivered to over 150,000 unexpected outdoor locations? Wait, what? Introducing Domino's Hotspots. You can finally get pizza delivered right to the beach, the quad, or the dog park. Not at home? Not a problem. Find a Domino's hotspot near you and get 2 medium 2-topping pizzas delivered for $5.99 each. 2-item minimum. Handmade pan pizzas will be extra ask for this limited time offer. Prices, participation, delivery area, and charges may vary. Restrictions apply. Visit Domino's.com for details on Domino's hotspots.
When it comes to hiring, you don't have time to waste. You need help getting to your short list of qualified candidates fast. That's why you need Indeed.com. Post a job in minutes, set up screener questions, then zero in on qualified candidates using an intuitive online dashboard. And when you need to hire fast, accelerate your results with sponsored jobs. New users can try for free at Indeed.com/podcast. That's Indeed.com/podcast. Terms, conditions, and quality standards apply.
By the way, I just had like an oil change on the fly at a stock car race, a NASCAR performance. My earpiece just fell off.
Yeah.
I don't know where it is. When I was walking around, it fell off, so I go to hear what's being played.
You can't hear.
There's a plastic tube in my ear. Doesn't really help much. So Stanzik came in like a good pit crew, got me a new one. Boom.
Maybe we ought to go to the headphones, the earbuds like Mike has, and when he gets a report every day.
It's amazing. Everybody's got something to say about the earbuds until bleep hits the fan, and all of a sudden, I'm the one over here hearing programming.
So we're saying old school works out pretty well there, huh? With the old earbuds and headphones? Yeah.
Well, I mean, don't get it twisted. In my spare time, my earbuds are wireless because I'm not a peasant. But
all right.
Wait, how many buds do you have, actually? More than one? You probably
No, I have these, and I have a pair of the wireless. The same thing, the white wireless earbuds.
I was looking at you because you collect all the shoes. I thought you might have like in gold, in red.
No, I don't got it like that. I am truly I say that in jest. I am a headphone peasant. Like I bought these are the ones that came with my phone when I originally bought it
in 1942.
Yes. So
hey guys,
can
we get back to the football, please?
Yes, Stanzik.
Wow.
Mr. Nerds Rope himself. I do declare,
saving himself from himself.
Hurry up and get into this conversation so we can have a private one with my son about candy.
We were actually discussing in the hallway what color American cheese you prefer, white or orange.
And it's
obviously white.
No, it's obviously yellow. Golic and Wingo on ESPN Radio and ESPN2, presented by Progressive Insurance. All phone guests join us on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. It is time for Straight Talk, brought to you by Straight Talk Wireless, best phones, best networks, no contracts. And the Straight Talk is, what color American? No, we're not going to do that. We're not going to do the cheese battle, maybe later, because we've got other people talking cheese,
yes,
which we are really excited about. It is a rematch of the AFC Championship game from a year ago, week 2 of the NFL's regular season, except this time the party is in Jacksonville. As the Jags, coming off that week 1 win, welcome in the New England Patriots, also coming off a week 1 win over the Houston Texans. Now, Jalen Ramsey, the, for lack of a better term, loquacious Jacksonville cornerback, has had himself quite an offseason.
Yes, he has.
Which, in an article in GQ, he basically ranked every quarterback by his metrics. Most of them were trash.
Yes, they were.
And then he also went in on Rob Gronkowski, the Patriots' outstanding tight end, and basically said, yeah, he's good, but he's not really good when he's matched up with a corner as opposed to when he's matched up with a linebacker. So Jalen was asked about that as he prepares to meet Gronk on the field.
He good now. we ain't gonna get it twisted. He's good, but you saying this to me is supposed to bring fear to me or something? Like, all right, then I don't fear no man. Period. So he gonna have to come out there and line up on me, or however it goes. I mean, he got to play. He got to play us this year. So.
Yeah, they are going to play.
The statistics do show
Correct.
that when he has lined up against cornerbacks, he has not had as good a games. I think the completion percentage basically was right around 50%, and everybody else it was right around 69, 70% completion percentage. So by percentage, Jalen Ramsey has been correct. So we'll see where that matchup goes here.
So obviously, if Jalen was asked about those things, Gronk was asked about those things. And people can think that Gronk is a big, dumb animal. He really isn't.
No,
He's
I agree.
actually much smarter than people want to give him credit for.
Just get him at the beginning of the night, not the end of the night.
Correct.
Yeah.
And this is Gronk being asked about that stat and whether or not he is better against linebackers than he is against cornerbacks. And Gronk refused to take the bait in a way that only Gronk could.
Jalen's criticism seems to be lost. Maybe, I don't know. Was that your struggle against corners? Do you have a preference to go against corners versus linebackers? Is that something you think about?
I like going versus D linemen. I mean, not in the blocking game, but when they drop in the passing game.
Oh, it's an awesome answer.
Beautiful. It's beautiful.
Gotta love
I'm not
that.
taking the bait, basically, is what he said. And I'll do it with a ha-ha where you go, oh, Gronk, you're so funny.
Yeah, he does. Oh, he does it with the subtlety of a sledgehammer. He goes, sometimes it motivates you, sometimes it doesn't.
Oh, speaking of that.
For sure. I mean, there's always motivation you're looking for. I mean, it does and it doesn't. You think it's like... So, it's tricky right there. Doesn't give you the answer you're looking for. That was a trick question. You're trying to get me to say something, right? All right. But it does and it doesn't. You know what I mean? I do. Yeah. Because, I mean, it motivates you. You're hearing that. Obviously there's something out there that he saw on film and stuff that I could probably get better at football in some certain categories. I mean, you don't always feel the best every single day when you're out on the field, so that's how he feels. That's how he feels.
Love it.
You media tricksters thought you were going to get me.
So in keeping score, what do we say about Jalen Ramsey last week? Odell had 11 catches for over 100 yards, but didn't have that big Jacksonville, of course, afterwards saying he didn't get that big breakaway reception, that short catch that leads to a 70-yard touchdown. But he did have 11 for over 100, and Eli missed on a couple that could have been bigger. So if you were to give Jalen, you win or lose that matchup against Odell, what would you say?
Yeah, I mean, it's imperfect, too, because not all of those were against Jalen. So.
Agreed, but all we talked about was that matchup.
Here's what I would say to that. I would say that if he didn't bust the game and break open the game, that's a win. That's a win for the
bottom line is Jacksonville got the win.
Yeah,
so.
and Odell didn't wreck the game.
Right.
Odell didn't wreck the game.
Odell also,
his,
oddly enough, when we talked about everyone that Jalen Ramsey ran down the list of, Odell was not mentioned in that list, and Jalen Ramsey was also very quiet in the week leading up to it. You have a feeling because there are guys where he clearly talks about guys he respects at certain points, and I have to imagine Odell falls into that. But DB is a weird position. DB is a lot like offensive line where you can spend the majority of your time doing very well, and if you have a few instances where things go wrong, you have a bad game, as opposed to being a wide receiver that's a lot like being a defensive lineman. You only need one or two big plays a game for it to look good for you.
No, I completely agree. I'm not going to lie. I can't do without the I fear no man thing. That one is.
Hey, I fear no man.
I mean,
okay,
that
I want to
one
be clear about
I
that.
fear
I
no
fear
man.
no man.
I fear a man, woman, dog.
I know. I just love that one.
I fear spiders, though.
I fear snakes.
Nobody.
Yeah, I do fear snakes.
Fear no man. Thank you, Jay. Okay.
You saw that. Were you here when we did the snake video yesterday?
Falling out of the ceiling?
No, hard pass on that one.
Yeah.
Hard pass
Burn
on
the
that
house
one.
down.
Yeah, house for sale in Brisbane, Australia.
Start from scratch. But going into this matchup this weekend.
Yeah.
Looking at these two teams, because we talked about the week one wins they got, and for the Jaguars, they beat a Giants team that we're all kind of unsure of, but bad matchup for the Giants, certainly up front of the offensive line. And the Patriots beat a Houston team that we remember the Houston Patriots game from last year was not nearly what we got, and the Patriots still didn't get a huge win in that one. So going into this week, who do you think we learn more about coming out of this matchup? Is it New England or is it Jacksonville?
Well, I think we know what New England's going to be, right? So I think we'll learn more about Jacksonville. I mean, that's the way I look at it. I think there's a known commodity in the Patriots.
Really, because I think the known commodity in the Patriots is Tom Brady. I think we learned about the rest of the weapons on offense and a defense that's not a Matt Patricia outfit anymore.
No.
Like, I think it's worth noticing what we're going to see develop on that side of the ball.
Here's what I think. I think we know from New England that Tom Brady leads this team, and you don't know how it's going to get led. You don't know who the main receiver is going to be. They may run the ball 10 straight times or 15 straight times. Yeah. You don't know where that's going to go. And with Jacksonville, we know they don't want to put the game on Blake Bortles.
They didn't last week. One first down wins the game on a 3rd and 6 dive play. We got more trash talk from Jalen Ramsey. Plus, a challenge has been presented and accepted, and that is Straight Talk, brought to you by Straight Talk Wireless, nationwide coverage on America's largest and most dependable 4G LTE networks. Again, more stuff from Jalen and a challenge accepted.
Support for the Golic and Wingo Show podcast comes from our friends at Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans. Let's talk about buying homes for a minute. Because of rising interest rates, there's a lot of unpredictability when it comes to buying a home these days. It's causing a whole lot of anxiety with folks. Well, our friends at Quicken Loans are doing something about it. They're calling it the power buying process, and here's how it works. Quicken Loans will verify your income, assets, and credit in less than 24 hours to give you a verified approval. This gives you the strength of a cash buyer. Then once you're verified, you qualify for their all-new exclusive Rate Shield approval. First, they lock your rate for up to 90 days while you shop. Now here's the best part. If rates go up, your rate stays the same. But if rates go down, your rate also drops. You win either way. It's the kind of thinking you'd expect from America's largest mortgage lender. To get started, go to rocketmortgage.com/Golic. Rate Shield approval only valid on certain 30-year purchase transactions. Additional conditions or exclusions may apply. Based on Quicken Loans data in comparison to public data record. Equal housing lender. Licensed in all 50 states. NMLSconsumeraccess.org number 3030.
The best is how creative we get with crotch nicknames. The radio call, they said Draymond got kicked in the Little Warriors.
Insert team nickname. Does it work for all of them?
The Little Heat?
The Little Raptors.
Oh, the Little Knicks.
The Little Knicks.
Oh man.
Little Rockets. Not really good.
The Little Rockets.
The Little Magic.
Ooh. Oh, wait, did we seriously skip the best one? Did I miss the Little Nuggets? Really looking forward to Dad's Galaga rejoin, coming to a show near you soon.
Galaga.
You just messed it up. He said Galaga.
Someone want to explain to them that I did that on purpose?
No, I don't believe that for a second.
Yeah, he just did it on purpose.
Sports Center, brought to you by Straight Talk Wireless. When a player doesn't like a contract, they hold out, right? With Straight Talk Wireless, you never have to because there is no contract, and they use the same exact 4G LTE towers as the big carriers, but for a lot less. Straight Talk Wireless, only at Walmart. Refer to terms and conditions of service at straighttalk.com.
All right, Golic and Wingo, ESPN Radio and ESPN2, presented by Progressive Insurance. All phone guests join us on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. So we had a little bit of Jalen Ramsey and Rob Gronkowski's trash talk back and forth. Basically, it was Jalen Ramsey doing Jalen Ramsey things and Gronk saying, not today.
Yeah,
I'm not taking the bait.
Yeah.
Before we get into someone who is taking the bait, sort of, let's just play one more Jalen Ramsey just because we can.
When you play the game of football, I feel like to respect the game, you have to play it fierce. You got to play it. I don't believe in having friends on the field. Like, I mean, my brother, my dad, my mom, grandma was out there. Like, it's on. Like, after the game, we can be cool. It doesn't matter. That's how I feel like you got to respect the game of football. Football is not a game meant to be played, being nice to each other and all that, like kumbaya. But after the game's over with, that's cool.
You wouldn't really hit your grandma.
No, I definitely would. She know that. My grandma know that. I love you, but she know that.
Would she hit you back?
Will she hit me back? Grandma might not get up from one of my legs.
Hey, at least we know where he stands.
He's entertaining, and we know he fears no man, and he'll take out his grandma.
And he fears no grandmother either.
I like to think that's equal opportunity, right? Like in that article Mina Kimes wrote for ESPN, the magazine, about Jalen, mentioned something about he was dunking on his little cousins, and then his mom walked out in the court, and she got dunked on too. Yeah. Like, anybody can get it.
Yeah.
And that you have to respect that. He's at least consistent.
Yeah, well, you also know what to say about people who have to tell you how tough they are. Yeah.
Oh, Jalen's pretty tough.
Oh, okay. But he's got to tell us.
No.
Got to tell us he doesn't fear no man. Got to tell us to take out his grandma. Blah blah. I'd rather hear.
You are Mr.
Man.
I'd rather hear him give his rating of other players and tell me how tough he is, or he'll take out his grandma. I mean, come on, that's so old.
But he's not saying he's tough. He's not saying look. He's just saying I'm going to hit anybody that's on the field.
Oh, I know. I don't fear any man. I don't fear no man.
You really got hung up on that line.
Oh, I did.
Play that old man sounder.
It's just so.
Cliff, play the old man sounder for Golic. Seriously. Thank you.
Go ahead, play it all you want. It's so played out. Oh, I don't fear no man.
Here we are. We're having a good Friday. We're vibing. We're not tongue tapping. We're vibing off Jalen Ramsey and you're playing.
Jalen brought me down with that. With that comment, he brought me down.
He's bringing you.
He brought me down.
All right,
we'll
see if we can lift you up, because it's my job to try and lift you up.
Okay, lift me up.
So we had Landon Collins, a Giant safety, basically saying nothing really groundbreaking here, but if you're going to beat the Cowboys, you want to put the ball in Dak's hands instead of making sure Zeke doesn't run all over you. And so this was Dak Prescott's response to basically saying, hey, I'm the weak link in the offense.
Challenge accepted. Challenge accepted. I didn't play well, and the only way I know how to play better is just to go to work and put in the time the right way with the right focus, and that's been my plan.
All right, what do you think about that?
Well, listen, Mike, I sit there and steal from you because I feel the exact same way, but I'll let you say what you said. I completely agree with what you said this morning. This offense is built around the running game and to have the ball in Dak's hand anyway.
Yeah, it's not an indictment on Dak. We had I think a very real conversation about what Dak's value can be to you. But when you are in this offense and you have structured it in such a way, from the time these guys stepped foot in the building, the plan was we had built up this offensive line. We want to run ground and pound and then set up everything else off of that. Now you've built it up that way. So of course any opposing defense is going to look at that and say, we know how to stop you, because now it's not like Dallas really has many other options that are proven yet outside of that.
Let's remember what the grand plan was. Zeke Elliott in the backfield, the great offensive line, and Tony Romo as the quarterback.
Right.
All right, they didn't draft Dak Prescott in the 4th round and then say, let's start him right away. I mean, this wasn't. They did. Yeah, but they had to because of the injury to Romo.
Yeah.
So I agree with you, Mike. It's not an indictment. Now, Dak certainly feels singled out in this because there's only one quarterback on the field, and if you want the ball in the quarterback's hand, you're going to be the guy named. Yep. But that is the Dallas offense. We want to ground and pound you and not have to throw the ball an awful lot. So you want the ball in the quarterback hand if you want a chance to beat them.
All right, so here's the question. Dak has thrown for under 200 yards in a passing era in 8 of his last 11 games. How much of that do we think is the absence of Zeke for a lot of those games? How much do we think that is the absence of a playmaking wide receiver, which they seriously don't have at this point?
They do not.
And how much do we think is on Dak Prescott?
Well, I think like anything, it's a combination.
Right.
But
so
I mean,
where are we
again, let's remember, Dak Prescott came in as a 4th rounder. Dak Prescott was not drafted as he was going to be the franchise quarterback of an organization. He was drafted as, hey, you know what? We think this guy could have some potential. Sometimes you draft a quarterback, you let him go further in the draft because nobody's taken him, and you feel you get him for a steal a little bit, and then you see, what can we get out of this guy? And they're finding they got a lot out of him, but the year they did it, they had that offensive line that was healthy. Zeke had that monster year. They certainly were still working on the defense. Listen, a lot of people wonder, can Dak live up to what he did that rookie year? I don't know if that offensive line can for a couple of years ago because of the injuries they had. And where has Zeke's career been since then of some injury and certainly some suspension? So I think that's a question for all of them, let alone just Dak Prescott.
I think the biggest deficiency for this Cowboys team is going to continue to be a lack of offensive weaponry. Like, outside of that core unit there, what have they really been able to hang their hat on? Des Bryant is out of town because that relationship on the field between him and Dak was not hitting in a way that netted them any gains. Jason Witten was great. I know our colleague here now, but he was great for a first down in the middle of the field. He wasn't a game breaker on the outside in a way that they expected Des to be, but based on the way his skills diminished, he wasn't any longer. So I think that's always going to be the biggest indictment against this offense.
Team speed has been a big problem for the Cowboys. I mean, they're powerful on offense. They're strong. They're not super fast. They need to find a guy with a little wiggle and a little shake. And that's why, Junior, we thought it was interesting, and Mike, you were off Wednesday, we observed that photo. We just observed that photo of Jerry Jones, Cowboys owner, sitting next to one Des Bryant at a Beyonce concert in AT&T Stadium. We just observed that. We're not reporting. We just observed.
Let me be honest.
We just observed.
Is that solving a whole lot?
Well,
nope.
At this point, it couldn't hurt. And it couldn't hurt. It may not make it better, but it's certainly not going to make it worse. That much we know. Coming up, more on the ultimate example of putting your money where your mouth is and where the guy who mouthed off to you isn't. We'll get to that. Golic and Wingo. Petty. Gallagher. We're vibing.
Remember when you couldn't order a ride at the press of a button? Or get online without hearing this? Or get Domino's delivered to over 150,000 unexpected outdoor locations? Wait, what? Introducing Domino's Hotspots. You can finally get pizza delivered right to the beach, the quad, or the dog park. Not at home? Not a problem. Find a Domino's hotspot near you and get 2 medium 2-topping pizzas delivered for $5.99 each. 2-item minimum. Handmade pan pizzas will be extra. Ask for this limited time offer. Prices, participation, delivery area, and charges may vary. Restrictions apply. Visit Domino's.com for details on Domino's Hotspots. Remember when you couldn't order a ride at the press of a button? Or get online without hearing this? Or get Domino's delivered to over 150,000 unexpected outdoor locations. Wait, what? Introducing Domino's Hotspots. You can finally get pizza delivered right to the beach, the quad, or the dog park. Not at home? Not a problem. Find a Domino's hotspot near you and get 2 medium 2-topping pizzas delivered for $5.99 each. 2-item minimum. Handmade pan pizzas will be extra asked for this limited time offer. Prices, participation, delivery area, and charges may vary. Restrictions apply. Visit Domino's.com for details on Domino's hotspots.
Glad you're with us on a Friday morning. Golic and Wingo, ESPN Radio and ESPN2. We are presented by Progressive Insurance. All phone guests join us on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. Mike Golic Jr., Trey Wingo here with you. Okay, have you noticed this phenomenon that's happening behind the glass recently?
What's that?
Well, somehow they've got a challenge flag in there from an NFL game. And they just continue to throw that flag around inside the booth all the time at each other.
So what, guys, somebody speak up. What's the genesis
Cliff, Bubble
of
Boy,
it?
Stanzik, Alley, why are we throwing around the flag?
Why is there a flag?
What's going on in there?
What's going on?
People give me flags and I throw them. I have no idea why.
So there's no real reason.
You just have a toy and you're just playing with it.
Yeah.
All right, good concentration on
honestly,
the show. Well done.
Yeah.
Honestly, I accept that.
Listen, you guys,
I embrace that.
You guys have a millennial staff on here. Like, I have often said that on this show, I identify much more with the people behind the glass than you guys, just because of the age gap here. Mm-hmm. It creates an interesting dynamic for us to talk about. It does. But I also can understand, like, if you're just given something like that, you've got to throw and play with it. We're a generation that was force-fed sugar in a lot of different forms. We're a little messed up because of it. Think about pixie sticks.
Fidget spinners. You guys fidget spinners.
I just found my fidget spinner the other day. What a treat that was.
What? I don't understand that one at all. Look at this thing. I'm going to spin it on my finger.
It's intoxicating. You just get the spin. You can feel the weight and the balance. Remember those little birdie things that you could balance on your finger? They're weighted so you just put the little beak on your finger there. For everyone watching on ESPN2, you're getting a real treat right now for Radio Theater of the Mind. Those little birds that have the weighted beak, and you put the point on your finger and it balances there, and it's like magic. That's basically the exact version of what you're dealing with a fidget spinner, but it moves.
Oh, fidget spinner is nothing like that at all. Fidget spinner is just something that spins. Yeah. It doesn't. I get the balancing bird thing. It's pretty wild.
Think of it like a stress ball, but one you spin instead. Just something mindless to do to kind of relax you and all this. Because again, I'm a generation that spent time chugging pixie sticks and eating Fun Dip. They gave us a candy so messed up and full of sugar that you could eat the utensil upon which you put the sugar to eat.
Please, your dad and I can top that kind of sugar. We used to remember those little dots off a piece of paper.
Oh yeah,
it was just little dots on a piece of paper. You just lick them off that. And then let's not even forget the little root beer things. You used to swallow the whole thing. Like eating plastic. We used to eat plastic and sugar.
You guys, you millennials, you don't have the corner street on sugar products, okay? That's been going on for a long time.
Ours are just better.
Oh, jeez. Well, what you guys failed to do is be able to hold your attention span for more than 2 minutes on anything.
There it is.
Holy smokes.
I'm sorry, what did you say? I wasn't paying attention.
That's exactly right.
All right, let's move on. Although I think we're on to something there.
I think we are, too.
We'll come back to it. Andy Dalton's on to something. Threw 4, didn't say he's on something. I said he's on to something. Mm-hmm. 4 touchdown passes in the first half, 3 to Adriel Jeremiah Green. He's to propel the Bengals over the Baltimore Ravens 34-23 Thursday. Somebody want to say something there?
Man, they jumped
jump in?
They jumped. Oh, we're letting you read.
No, I heard someone say, and they stopped.
They jumped all over Baltimore in this one. We were wondering which of these two teams could possibly challenge Pittsburgh, though Pittsburgh, I don't know if we know just yet what we're getting right there, because we know Le'Veon's not there. Well, James Conner had a good game, and now we got the elbow of Roethlisberger we're not sure about either. But Cincinnati, from that offense, we've talked about their weaponry, even though they did go after these touchdowns, 5 straight series of punting, so the consistency factor may not be there yet. But of these two teams, I know, Trey, at the end of the show, both you and I picked Cincinnati thinking they had more firepower on offense, and in the first 2 weeks, that's shown.
It has, but I'll give Joe Flacco and this Ravens outfit credit. There were points in the third quarter and the fourth quarter where they really got it humming. John Brown, a hell of an addition, had a freak-so catch for a touchdown for them later. Willie Snead, they brought over in free agency, and then Michael Crabtree was the headliner, certainly the biggest name of that group, but it's a group that certainly both sides have given more to their quarterbacks to work with than they're used to. It just so happens that Andy Dalton has A.J. Green, who is probably one of the handful of best receivers in the NFL. And that offense, we know on the top end what they can be. Can they develop that consistency enough to be a real player?
And what always helps is when you get taken out of your game plan. All of a sudden, Baltimore's throwing the ball 55 times. Cincinnati gets 4 sacks. Geno Atkins gets a couple of those. And that's what happens. It's a O-lineman's worst fear and a D-lineman's best dream is when you know you got to throw the ball, it's just pin your ears back as a D-line and get after it. And as an O-line, all you have to do is pass block all night, which isn't the most fun thing in the world.
But it's also that difficulty in getting yourself out of that mindset. Once you have that big lead, and they talked about it with Andy after, the most difficult thing to do sometimes is to play with a lead because your natural tendency is to relax. Right. So all of a sudden, you've relaxed with that 3-4 touchdown lead, and then they get back into it, and you have to go, oh, okay, we've got to wake up and do things the way we were early on.
Yeah, I'm not giving up on Baltimore, but one thing that has to get fixed, they've had no running game so far through the first 2 weeks. I mean, Alex Collins, I think, had less than 20 yards or 25 yards in week 1. He was 9 of 35 in week 2. So they have, for all the things we've seen out of Flacco and his ability to make plays with these new wide receivers, there's been no consistency in the running game through 2 weeks of the Baltimore Ravens, and that's something they've got to address. By the way, Andy Dalton is only the 3rd player to throw 4 touchdowns and a half against the Ravens, joining the likes of Peyton Manning and Ben Roethlisberger. Dalton had never thrown 4 touchdowns in his first 18 career starts in prime time.
Listen, we have known Andy Dalton has had some pretty good seasons at time. What's the hang-up? Not only with Dalton, but with this whole team. It's all the postseason.
Playoffs.
It's all the postseason.
Yep. We'll see what happens going forward. Well, again, we talked about this a little earlier. Nick Young probably regrets doing this because now he's going to get asked about it by not showing up. He called out Gilbert Arenas, Agent Zero, the former NBA player, to compete in a shooting contest. So Arenas said sure. He showed up in a gym bag with a pair of shoes and a duffel bag with $100K in cash. Young didn't show up. So Gilbert waited around for a while and said, boom, made 95 of 100 threes. 95 of 100 and said, no, where you at? Where you at, Nick?
How do you call somebody out like that and then don't even show up? I mean, Nick Young is going to get roasted big time for this one in this, in his peer group.
Oh, yeah.
Without question in his peer. We always talk about, boy, how's that going to play in the locker room? This with your whole peer group. Wait a minute. You challenged some dude. He showed up. You didn't even show up. Not only did he showed up with a bag of money, and you didn't show up.
He might have been afraid of what else Gilbert Arenas might have had in the bag.
Yeah, that's true, too. But then don't open your mouth and make the bet. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh,
or challenge anybody.
That is putting your money where your mouth is gets talked about often. To do it that demonstratively, $100,000 I don't even know how you would collect $100,000 cash. Like, do you have it buried in your backyard?
As we've said, if you're walking into a gym with $100,000 in a duffel bag, was that the first time you've done it?
No. Remember,
you taking it out of the wall somewhere?
Yeah,
Pac-Man Jones once showed up to a strip club in Vegas with a garbage bag, I think, full of $1 million, and just started throwing things around.
$1 million?
Yeah, I think he took. Well, he spent $1 million that weekend. He spent $1 million that
Okay,
weekend.
I was going to say $1 million at a strip club is a bit.
Also, that had to be a strong garbage bag. $1 million in cash.
There's actually video of that somewhere. I remember seeing.
I remember seeing it as well, but $1 million with that. But that weekend, that's a weekend.
So that led us to our question on Golic and Wingo. What are you most confident in that you would put $100K in a duffel bag? What will you put your money where your mouth is? And mine is simply on this. I am a pheasant plucker. I pluck mother pheasants. I'm the most pleasant mother pheasant plucker that ever plucked a mother pheasant. Boom!
It's unbelievable. Yeah, it scares me every time you say that rhyme that you don't say it wrong.
It's a little tongue twister. You got to be confident.
So you would now. You've done it probably half a dozen times on this show. If you walked in with a bag of $100,000 of your own money, you set it on that table, would you have confidence you could do it?
Yes.
That you would lose that $100,000 if you didn't.
Yeah.
In any setting.
Yeah.
Like
I just did it on the air.
I mean, but I'm talking I'm talking with a crowd, like halftime of the Super Bowl or at someone famous's funeral.
Just like you could make a 4-foot putt out today if you and I play, but if $100,000 of your own money was there,
I'd be much more scared about a 4-foot putt than I am about nailing that.
So you could put what would you put $100,000 down for? I already know what I would do.
$100,000 down for me would probably be finishing meals uncomfortably fast, or if I had to do something actually competitive
against somebody.
In my prime Pikachu Super Smash Brothers, when I was in college, I was an inferno.
Pikachu Super
Smash Brothers, the game. Pikachu, my character, the best character in the game.
Okay.
right.
Run it back with anyone who wanted it in my heyday.
Okay.
All right, what about you? Real quickly, because Stanzik suddenly wants to produce the show.
Whatever. Mine would be when Stugatz made that bet with me, eating the donuts.
Oh, yeah.
How many he ate X amount of donuts in like 2 hours on the show?
Did it in like 5 minutes. It was insane.
Yeah, he did that. I would have easily, and I destroyed it. I ate 38 mini donuts in like 8 minutes. I destroyed him. I would have easily that morning brought in $100,000 of my own money and laid it on the table, knowing full well I'd have beaten him.
I would say if it comes to any competition with Stugatz, bring that money. Now, he will steal that money when you're not looking, and it'll become his.
But that was an actual competition I had with him, and one that I would have brought in $100,000 of my own money. This is about confidence. Just as Gilbert Arenas was that confident, I was that confident that I could eat more donuts than Stugatz.
And I'm that confident that Stanzik is like, please, mother of God, let's move this on.
The man who's talking about nerd
Fun
neck ropes
dip and
with
nerd
Mike
ropes.
when we're talking football. Please.
All right, so you know what? Let's get back to talking football with the 5-point stance.
This is 5-Point Stance on Golic and Wingo.
All right, here we go. 5-point stance about week 2 of the National Football League, and let's start here. Tom Brady, 8-0 in his career against the Jaguars, including playoffs. His most wins without a loss versus a single opponent. He's thrown 19 touchdown passes and 2 interceptions, both in one game, in those 8 games. This week will be Brady's 3rd game at Jacksonville. What are we expecting?
Man, I am such a fan of this Jacksonville defense.
Me too.
They do have him at home as well. I'm looking forward to the Gronkowski matchup with Ramsey, though we sit there and say it. I don't know how many times Ramsey will actually be on Gronkowski. We have no idea about that. We'll have to wait and see. And you just always wonder about what New England is going to do in this particular game. Who is going to be that guy? I'm not going to lie. I have a lot of confidence in the Jacksonville defense. What worries me is Leonard Fournette. I don't think he's going to play with that hammy. He hasn't practiced this week, so I don't think he's going to play, and I think that hurts them offensively.
But Yeldon would be the bellwether back if that's the case.
It's tough for me to go against New England in this one, even though I love the Jacksonville. The Jacksonville offense doesn't do enough for me.
Yeah, worth noting, too, for the New England offense, Rex Burkhead was limited yesterday. I think he's still in the concussion protocol.
Well, they'll find another bat. That's what they do. They'll find another guy.
Oh, no, I guess I'm saying they're starting to lose out on guys to find because Sony Michel's also been limited with that knee even since the preseason. So you couple that... I'm going to pick New England in this one for the same reason. I think Blake Bortles is too limited to have that success, especially early on. Now, we saw the way Blake Bortles developed down the stretch last season and had a month of December that I was all kind of questioning some things. But I think it's going to take a while to get back to that point, especially with the new faces on this offense.
Listen, here's the biggest thing, if you want to be honest about this rematch, if you want to call it that, from the AFC Championship game. Leonard Fournette may not be on the field. Rob Gronkowski is going to be on the field. Remember that hit from Barry Church? Right. By the way, it was not a dirty hit. There was nothing he could do. Gronk came down and landed on his helmet, basically. I mean, that's what happens when you're a dancing bear. You play above everybody. If Gronk is on the field, I with all due respect to Jalen Ramsey and all that kind of stuff, he's a difference maker. And if he's on the field, and really the staple of their offense in Jacksonville isn't, that's going to be a problem for Jacksonville.
And for New England's defense on that side, as we continue to look for things to bust open this Jaguars offense, Adrian Claiborne, who they brought over this offseason from Atlanta, was a guy that already popped off the screen a bit in their first game.
What a great note by Riley. Did you see this? She said the line for New England-Jacksonville is currently a pick'em. That means Tom Brady's streak of 51 straight games as a favorite in jeopardy here.
And we'll get into that more with Brian Vegas of VegasInsiders.com, talking about that one. Team Riley, she's not just updating us on boarding procedures.
No, she is not.
She brings a lot more to the table. By the way, 5-point stance brought to you by Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance. Visit us at geico.com or call 1-800-947-AUTO, AUTO. Well, second part of our 5-point stance, Sam Darnold looking for an encore performance in Week 2 after throwing for 2 touchdowns in Week 1, Monday night against the Lions. Since the AFL-NFL merger of 1970, the only rookie quarterback to throw multiple touchdown passes in each of his first 2 games of a season, Marcus Mariota in 2015.
And going against Miami here, Miami played the longest game known to mankind against Tennessee with those couple of delays there. This isn't the most, difficult defense in the world. The Jets certainly riding off that high. I know everybody's anointing Sam. I particularly am going to wait for a little while. He certainly looks good in the pocket. But I don't see why, Mike, he can't continue and this offense can't continue to have success this week against this Miami defense.
Well, and I look more on the other side. Can the Jets defense be the sure commodity while a young quarterback grows? Because over the years when we've talked about quarterbacks coming into their prominence, it's been Ben Roethlisberger, Tom Brady coming into situations where they inherit a great defense and they're allowed to grow into being the focal point of an offense. Can this Jets coaching staff on offense continue to give him a chance, create game plans that allow him to take reasonable shots like we saw last week, but then have a defense led by Jamal Adams and company who goes out there and can dominate in stretches, especially against a Dolphins offense that's still trying to find itself. This is the first time they've had Ryan Tannehill healthy in what feels like forever, so Adam Gase in this offense working out the kinks.
Yeah, with all due respect to Sam Darnold and things he did, the thing that stood out to me on that Monday night game was that Jets defense. New Jack City, even though that was a new phenomenon for Brian Griese. That to me was what stood out, and that's what I'm most curious about, seeing if they can do that again in week 2. That is an odd stat, though, that only Marcus Mariota has thrown for multiple touchdown passes in his first 2 games of his career. You just wouldn't think that would be the case with all these great rookie quarterbacks we've seen come on, especially in the last few years.
Russell Wilson thrown into that mix as well.
RG3, the first 2 years of his first 2 games of his season, and when he was Rookie of the Year, set the world on fire. Really, really bizarre. We continue. The Chiefs are taking on the Steelers in Pittsburgh. Kansas City 1-4, including playoffs against the Steelers under Andy Reid. This would be since 2013. That is their worst record against any of the 17 teams they've faced multiple times, including playoffs over that time frame. It's even worse in Pittsburgh. The Chiefs have not won since 1986, lost 6 straight. Now, take that for what it is. That's more of an odd, quirky schedule because none of these guys were playing back in 1986. That's just one of those statistical things that sort of stands out for no real reason whatsoever. But the fact that Andy Reid somehow has not found a way to beat Pittsburgh with any regularity since 2013 is a little more noteworthy.
Yeah, it definitely is. The thing I look for in this game is the pass rush of the Pittsburgh Steelers and that defensive line against the O-line for Kansas City, and just where that is going to take. They had 7 sacks. 7 sacks against Cleveland. Now, that Cleveland O-line, I know, had been struggling. Kansas City line, I think, is better than the Cleveland line. But 7 sacks, they get pressure. Young quarterback in Mahomes, I know, has the big arm, and he moves very, very well. So not only the pressure on him, but can you keep him in the pocket? The dude can get rid of the ball. I get it. Can flick it and get it downfield. But that kind of pressure on a young quarterback, making him get rid of the ball off schedule, making him get rid of the ball maybe more erratically than he would want to, that to me is what I'm looking for.
When penetration kills, TJ Watt put up the stat line of the week 1 on defense, and a lot of it was getting behind the line of scrimmage. And in this Andy Reid offense, where you've got a guy like Tyreek Hill, who's your move player, your gadget player, your guy behind the line of scrimmage as well as a downfield threat, can you get in the backfield and disrupt that? And then for these run-pass options, because some of the plays that Patrick Mahomes hit on were short plays, were run-pass options where he's hitting these guys on slants for big yards. The Steelers' linebacking core, when they lost Ryan Shazier, dropped markedly in athleticism. And you rely on a lot on your linebackers in those instances to get in those passing windows. So can TJ Watt and that D-line help make up for some of that, getting their hands up in those? If you can't get to the quarterback, you know this as well as anyone. If you can't get there, get up and try and make sure that you can affect the throwing lanes.
I didn't get there a lot, but I blocked a few.
Listen, that's the thing. If you realize you're not getting it, you might as well wait and read the quarterback's eyes and try and jump up and get it done.
TJ's brother JJ does that about as well as anyone, if not better, in the league.
Without question. And I'm really curious to see what we're going to get from Pittsburgh. With Ben Roethlisberger, I think he's going to play. There's always a little drama around Ben. And the elbow, he thinks he's going to play. I'm curious how they respond against a really quality opponent. And I'm curious to see how Patrick Mahomes does. Granted, he won last year on the road in Denver, final game of the regular season. This is a different dynamic now going forward.
You can beat this Kansas City Chiefs defense up in the middle, too. That's the other thing. That's where Pittsburgh wants to.
All right, let's get one more in here. My goodness, that was aggressive. The Vikings have won 4 of their last 5 meetings with the Packers and are looking to win 3 straight against them for the first time since 08-09. In between those runs, the Vikings went 1-10-1, including playoffs against Green Bay. This will be Kirk Cousins' first career game at Lambeau Field, and we don't know if it'll be Aaron Rodgers' second game this season at Lambeau Field yet.
No, we do not. I'm leaning toward I don't think he's going to play. Hasn't practiced yet. Not like he can't still step in and get the job done. I don't think anybody doubts that. But a knee sprain, I think it's something, if it is just a grade 1 or up to, in the area of a grade 1 to grade 2, that's still a couple of weeks of soreness. If it's a grade 2, it's going to be more of definite soreness and lack of moving around. And this Minnesota defense is stifling. from the pressure they could put on the quarterback. Harrison Smith had a monster game last week. He's all over the place as the safety there. So I just have way more faith right now in this Minnesota defense. I know Aaron Rodgers can be the cure-all, but I'm not a huge fan of their running game yet by any stretch of the imagination. So I give a big plus to the Minnesota defense in this one.
Twice?
Yeah, twice. Yeah, no,
twice.
Hit me with that. I misfired.
Double-dipped it.
Yeah, it's heinous.
Yeah.
If Minnesota should absolutely win this game, if Aaron Rodgers isn't playing, write it off completely. The areas that I look for if you're Green Bay, because up front I think Green Bay is actually pretty interesting. Muhammad Wilkerson, you combine him with what they've got in Mike Daniels, and you've got a group
Daniels.
With Minnesota's offensive line too, how dinged up that group's been susceptible, but I still think too many weapons for Minnesota. They get this done.
All right, that was our 4-point stance. We'll get to the fifth of the 5-point stance coming up after the break, and it involves which will be the highest rated
Yes,
game
it will.
all weekend long, even though both teams have yet to win a game. Trust me, it won't even be close. Coming up, how did their tie against the Browns affect the Steelers' Week 2 point spread against the Chiefs? Can Mahomes engineer another upset? We'll talk to a veteran handicapper.
Remember when you couldn't order a ride at the press of a button? Or get online without hearing this? Or get Domino's delivered to over 150,000 unexpected outdoor locations? Wait, what? Introducing Domino's Hotspots. You can finally get pizza delivered right to the beach, the quad, or the dog park. Not at home? Not a problem. Find a Domino's hotspot near you and get 2 medium 2-topping pizzas delivered for $5.99 each. 2-item minimum. Handmade pan pizzas will be extra. Ask for this limited time offer. Prices, participation, delivery area, and charges may vary. Restrictions apply. Visit Domino's.com for details on Domino's hotspots.
When it comes to hiring, you don't have time to waste. You need help getting to your short list of qualified candidates fast. That's why you need Indeed.com. Post a job in minutes, set up screener questions, then zero in on qualified candidates using an intuitive online dashboard. And when you need to hire fast, accelerate your results with sponsored jobs. New users can try for free at Indeed.com/podcast. That's Indeed.com/podcast. Terms, conditions, and quality standards apply.
Golic and Wingo, ESPN Radio, ESPN2. Presented by Progressive Insurance. Are you vibing over there, Junior?
He's vibing.
Not even a toe. I couldn't move my toes, so I just moved my hand. It was a hand tapper.
All phone guests join us on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. Before we get to our next guest, we have to finish up, Cliff. We have to finish up the 5-point stance.
This is 5-Point Stance on Golic and Wingo.
All right, here we go. The Giants going to try and avoid their second straight 0-2 start. They've started 0-2 in 4 of the last 5 years. The last time the Giants started 0-2 and still made the playoffs, 2007, they did go on to win the Super Bowl that year. That was also the last time any team in the NFC East started 0-2 and made the playoffs. So what do we think?
Well, this is one of those, nothing on either one of these teams really wows me to say this can be a difference maker, except Odell Beckham Jr.
Yep.
So,
and the secondary is the problem for the Cowboys defense. 11
catches, over 100 yards last week against Jacksonville. I know he didn't have any one of those game breakers, but it's just a matter of time. He's going to catch that short one or that deep one, whatever it is, and he is going to be the difference. And I just don't. I think that old line for Dallas is just a little beat up with Travis Frederick still in there at the center position. They're not what they've been. I see the Giants winning this one. I see them winning it, getting more of a running game with Saquon Barkley. I know it's bottle up, then you get that big run, but start to get more consistent there, and I just see Odell being the difference.
Too many weapons for the Dallas side. I think we forgot with the lack of balance last year for New York how good this defense can be, and we saw shades of that last week. A lot of talent there. I think the New York Giants win this one pretty comfortably.
Pretty comfortably, says. We'll get into more about this game a little bit later. By the way, you better not start 0-2. You only have an 8% chance of making the postseason going back to 1990 when this playoff format was
It's not
introduced.
a high percentage.
8%.
It's one I wouldn't gamble on.
Only 28 teams. I would not gamble on that, but I would gamble on the information from Senior Handicapper at VegasInsider.com, Brian Edwards, who joins us now on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line, taking synthetic motor oil performance to a whole new level. Make the switch to Pennzoil Synthetics today. And Brian, let's just jump in right there. How much do you guys look at a stat like that in terms of wagering? How much credibility do the sharps in Vegas put in the idea of how difficult it is to start 0-2 and get back to the postseason?
Well, there's all sorts of trends like that, and but no, I look at it a game by game basis each week, and I don't put a whole lot of stock in that. And good morning, gentlemen. Thanks for having me.
Oh, fine. Just throw water on what we were talking about, Brian.
All right.
Thanks a lot.
Well, let's get right to the fun one then. How do you handicap a game if you're out there and want to put a few shekels down on Green Bay and Minnesota, and you have no idea whether Aaron Rodgers is going to start and how you create a line for this?
Well, right now there is no line available. The Super Contest sent out Minnesota -7 because the contestants have to have their picks in today. So they're guessing Rodgers is not going to play. I made Minnesota -7, and if Rodgers doesn't go, I made Minnesota -1 if he does go. But I think he's more than a 6-point difference to the line. But the way that injury looked, even if he does play, we don't know if he'll be able to last the whole game. So that's why I only made Minnesota -1.
Talking to Brian Edwards, Senior Handicapper at VegasInsider.com. So from unknown commodity in that game, let's go to one we're trying to figure out more about. Kansas City's getting 4.5, visiting Pittsburgh this weekend. How do you look at the young quarterback-led Kansas City offense going into this?
Well, I love Mahomes at Texas Tech, and he looked spectacular last week in his second career start, 256 passing yards, 4 touchdowns without an interception. Tyreek Hill looked like the most explosive player in the NFL, 11 touches, 268 all-purpose yards. Kansas City's 13-9 against the spread as a road underdog under Andy Reid. It certainly doesn't hurt our cause that the Steelers had to play 5 quarters last week. Love Big Ben. He's got the rings. He's had a Hall of Fame career, but he's starting to show his age. 4 turnovers last week and 46 picks in his last 41 starts.
So staying with young quarterbacks, what does it do week 1, whatever the line was for the Jets in week 1, to now against Miami in week 2? Not a great defense. And the game Sam Darnold had, the incredible 76% completion percentage, what does that do when trying to figure out a number?
Well, certainly power rating-wise, the Jets have been upgraded. Darnold shook off that pick 6 and played outstanding. So, a lot of handicappers probably would have had this a pick 'em last week. I made the Jets 3.5. Right now at 2.5, I lean to the Jets, but I don't know that it'll make the cut.
All right, Vegas Insider, Brian, Senior Handicapper, rather, from VegasInsider.com, Brian Edwards is with us. I just want to make sure I got that one stat right before I ask my next question. You said Big Ben has 46 picks in his last 41 games?
Correct.
Is that including playoffs or just regular season?
I'm not. I was looking at his player page. It might be just regular season.
Okay, gotcha. Just want to make sure about that. Now, let me ask you about another one, because Westgate has this one as a pick'em between the Patriots and the Jaguars. Where are we standing on this?
Oh, just a matter of principle. Tom Brady and Belichick against the Jaguars. Definitely lean to the Pats. I'm not saying that's going to be one of my picks, but without question, I would go with the Pats.
That's probably a good principle to lean on, by the way. Just you probably make a lot of money doing that, Brian.
Heavy quarterback advantage with the Patriots in that one.
What is your, for lack of a better terms, your lock for this week in the pro? Before we do a little bit of college, is there one that you feel as good about as any other one?
I'll go Carolina +6 at my Falcons. The injuries to Keanu Neal and Deion Jones are real killers for the Falcons. Those guys both were in the Pro Bowl last year. Third-year guys that have started since their rookie season, the 2 leading tacklers for Atlanta last year. Now, I know Greg Olson's out, the outstanding tight end to the Panthers, and their offensive tackle, Darrell Williams. But Luke Kuechly got upgraded to probable after practicing yesterday. The Falcons, as a home favorite, their last 30, they're only 11-19 against the spread. And on the flip side, Carolina is 20-8 against the spread in its last 28 games as a road underdog going back to 2012. So I will fade my Falcons with the Panthers +6.
Talking to Brian Edwards, Senior Handicapper, VegasInsider.com. Let's move over to college. Alabama, used to some certainly big lines. They're giving 20.5 at Ole Miss this weekend. Jordan Ta'amu, mobile guy, kind of similar skill set wise to what Chad Kelly had in one of those teams that really challenged Alabama. Does he put any fear at all in you on this, or are you siding with the Tide?
Well, whatever fear he puts in me, I'm going to also play the over. I made Alabama a 28-point favorite here. I love Ole Miss's offense. A.J. Brown, probably the best wide receiver in the country, and DK Metcalf and DeMarcus Lodge are also going to play on Sundays. But Ole Miss, as good as their offense is, their defense is awful. They gave up 38 in the first half alone against an FCS foe, Southern Illinois, last week. So I think Alabama is going to be able to run the ball at will against Ole Miss and really score as many as they want. But now looking at the over, first off, this is the highest total in Alabama football history. In fact, the previous high was 65 and they've only had 4 totals in the 60s ever, and 2 of them have been the last 2 weeks in the over hit on both. But Ole Miss, they scored 47 against Texas Tech, 76 against Southern Illinois. I think Ole Miss gets maybe 24-28, but Alabama will score as many points as they feel like it as long as the game is competitive. So I'll lay the chalk minus 21 with Alabama and also over 71.
Brian, quickly, let's finish up on LSU Auburn. Where are you leaning there?
Slight lean to LSU. I love the way Burrow looked against Miami. I'm not going to, the stats weren't clean and pretty last week, but, it was a letdown scenario, a sandwich game with a scrub opponent. So I lean LSU catching the big number. I really like what I saw out of them against Miami in the opener.
All right, Brian, thanks. We'll talk to you later on. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Brian.
Thanks, guys. Have a good one.
All right, coming up, 2 huge games in one stadium this weekend, one in the NFL, one in college, and one of those teams playing in one of those 2 games still without their head coach.
Support for the Golic and Wingo Show podcast comes from our friends at Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans. Let's talk about buying homes for a minute. Because of rising interest rates, there's a lot of unpredictability when it comes to buying a home these days. It's causing a whole lot of anxiety with folks. Well, our friends at Quicken Loans are doing something about it. They're calling it the power buying process, and here's how it works. Quicken Loans will verify your income, assets, and credit in less than 24 hours to give you a verified approval. This gives you the strength of a cash buyer. Then once you're verified, you qualify for their all-new exclusive Rate Shield approval. First, they lock your rate for up to 90 days while you shop. Now here's the best part. If rates go up, your rate stays the same. But if rates go down, your rate also drops. You win either way. It's the kind of thinking you'd expect from America's largest mortgage lender. To get started, go to rocketmortgage.com/Golic. Rate Shield approval only valid on certain 30-year purchase transactions. Additional conditions or exclusions may apply. Based on Quicken Loans data in comparison to public data record. Equal housing lender. Licensed in all 50 states. NMLS ConsumerAccess.org number 3030.
Listen, he's going to struggle. Pat Mahomes did not play his rookie year, barely at all. There is no chance on God's green earth he comes in next year and lights it up. There's something amazing to me about the fact that you have a Chief team that can win now, that you're going to go now to a young quarterback. I'm a little surprised.
I knew you wouldn't be ready. SportsCenter brought to you by Progressive Home Insurance. Get your quote at progressive.com today. Too busy talking to Stanzik again about something, forgetting your job.
Nerds wrote Mario Kart.
Whatever.
But again, let's make people understand the guy who's producing the show, whose job it is to make sure we stay on track.
You know that Mike has that read, and yet you're talking to him in his ear right up to the time he has to do that read.
You can read too, right?
What are you doing?
See, I am the thin fabric that connects the two worlds because, again, we have a very millennial-driven crew behind the glass. We've got you guys out here, and so I like to bridge the gap between the two. The problem is that a lot of times that means I have 2 conversations going on in my head at once, and at times I don't do the best in dealing with it. I will admit my fault in this.
I think you just like using the word thin and yourself in the same sentence.
Yeah, there you go.
I understand that, though, because I always do 2 shows, the one that comes out over the air and the one in my head. So I have 2 going on most of the time. So I do appreciate the skill with which you do.
I am very thin now, too.
You are.
Wow.
You're very attractive.
Okay.
Single, too.
We should have stopped it then. But we got a couple of big, fat, juicy games in college football, including one we're going to talk to the head coach of TCU in a little bit as they welcome in Ohio State. And, there's a lot of sort of layers to this thing that go back a few years. Wasn't it then Ohio State President Gordon Gee a few years ago took that shot at TCU?
Yes, he did.
Saying that what was the Little Sisters of the Poor? Wasn't that what it was?
He had, of course, apologized for that and such. Yeah, there was a little bit of history here. But this game, it's an Ohio State team that has been dominant, usually wherever, obviously, Urban Meyer goes. They have the dominant talent. And TCU that I think they're kind of caught in between. They're looking to be that. They have a defensive-minded coach in Gary Patterson, usually a tough defense, but in a conference where you don't see a lot of that. But they want to be in that stratosphere, but they're not in that stratosphere. So they're a good team that really plays with, I think, a chip on their shoulder all the time.
Yeah, I would qualify them as a best of the rest, right? Like we have the Warrior Elite in college football, the teams that we know and consider serious contenders, and then you have the best of the rest, and that's headlined by Gary Patterson and this program, who have, you're right, been as consistent in defining who they are as any team you can think of, especially in a conference where their definition differs from the norm. But I still don't think, they're 2 touchdown underdogs in this scenario.
Yes.
And I think with good reason. Like, I think Ohio State could go out there and run these guys.
Do you think there's any effect? I'm just thinking of time on the field. This is the last game where Urban Meyer will not be on the sideline for game day. And this is the best team they've played, because the last 2 games, or he hasn't been either, but he's been at practice since after week 1. He's been at practice, but not on the field or on the sideline at game time. I know for me, it wouldn't have been an effect as a defensive lineman. And you well know, and if people don't know out there, players spend way more time with their position coaches than the head coach. Way more time. Now, it all depends on the head coach. Is that head coach, depending on what team, are they calling the offensive plays? Are they calling the defensive plays? So that could make it a little more intimate if they're not on the sideline. But other than that, players are dealing with their coaches a little more. So while I'm sure there's an effect to not have him on the sideline, I don't think it's as devastating an effect as some may think to not have your head coach on the sideline.
Well, listen, at the end of the day, the head coach is the CEO, right? He sets all the wheels in motion and everybody else does their job. That's sort of the way this works, right? So you want to make sure that head coach, if he's out there, is healthy. And we had an issue recently in college football with a head coach who couldn't get out there because of some serious, not so serious issues.
Yeah, we did. Georgia State coached. They lost their game 41-7. But it was either I don't even know what play. Was it after the only touchdown they got or another big play? Their head coach, Sean Elliott, got really happy and fist pumped really hard. He fist pumped so hard he tore his bicep. It was a post-TD fist pump in an eventual 41-7 loss. Tore his bicep. Could you imagine that? Being happy, throwing up your fist, and you're tearing your bicep.
But wait, isn't that the same school where the college basketball coach in the NCAA tournament wiped out and tore his Achilles in this?
Yes.
So there's something.
Ron Hunter.
Yeah, there's something with the coaches at Georgia State that they can't stop harming themselves.
Yeah, he wheeled around on a scooter. Scooter. Yeah. After that, but that's a tough call.
One of those situations where I would rather do it on the famed by 5. You know, when you see 2 guys take biceps and interlock at that midpoint instead of the high 5.
Oh, right.
It's got some alternative nicknames, but the by 5 is what we'll go with right now.
Bam.
In that situation, that seems like more because you get the torque going the other way. To me, doing it on a fist bump indicates a lack of training on this coach's part. You haven't properly trained your biceps in a while, so they weren't ready for the kind of force you were trying to generate in that scenario for your very limited success. I don't know. To me, you got to look at the strength and conditioning staff.
So you call that the by 5? Is that
I like the by 5.
The by 5 when you go inner part of the bicep to inner part of the bicep.
I will say this. That's 2 that I got to give you credit. You tried to slip this one in. I don't think anybody really heard it. When you were talking, we were talking with Brian Edwards, the senior handicapper for Vegas Insider. You said, "Are you going to side with the Tide?" Talking about the Alabama game. That's a T-shirt. I side with the Tide. Junior, you should patent.
Sounds like a political campaign.
I side with the Tide.
Before you have to go,
I'm a side Tider.
Let me go back to your Ohio State thing real quick. Do you think there's an effect of not having Urban Meyer on the sideline? Or what effect do you think it is?
I think so, just because a head coach is used to handling all the things that come with game day ops, right? So that's one thing that you're being asked. I think having him back during the week is the bigger net benefit, though. Because to your point, yeah, you work a lot more with your position coach, but if practice is going awry at the beginning, who's more likely to notice those things and stop it if need be? Who's used to spotting the signs in a way the head coach is really uniquely capable of? And I think it's applying that standard over and over again, because that's the difference with the Urban Meyers and Nick Saban is they're used to applying that standard in a way that raises everyone's level.
And they've already had 2 games where they had another person as the acting coach, so they're kind of used to that now as well. It's not like it was a 1-game thing where all of a sudden it's the first game without your head coach on the sideline.
I'm more curious to see exactly how amped and by 5 they are when he comes back.
Oh yeah.
There'll be a high energy level in the building.
Absolutely.
Junior, stay classy. Coming up, Gronk might lose the trash-talking battle with Jalen Ramsey, but how will it play out on the field? We'll get to that.
Remember when you couldn't order a ride at the press of a button? Or get online without hearing this? Or get Domino's delivered to over 150,000 unexpected outdoor locations? Wait, what? Introducing Domino's Hotspots. You can finally get pizza delivered right to the